We also have this on foreign policy.
Number one, if Putin gets away with this, there goes Taiwan. The two are connected. So I'm all in to win it. And you're not going to win this war by bleeding Ukraine dry and giving them weapons they need too late to affect the outcome on the battlefield.
So I think if we stop helping Ukraine, the result is going to be a slaughter, followed by we now live in a world where the message will be pretty clear, and that is that if you want to invade a smaller neighbor and take their land, you can do it, and there won't be many consequences for it.
Support for Ukraine sparking a new divide in the Republican Party. Republican lawmakers pushing back against potential 2024 contender Ron DeSantis after claiming aid for Ukraine is not a vital national interest. Former House Speaker and Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich is here. Would love to get your take. Let me just show you the New York Post cover today, in which it says DeSantis must show leadership. Sorry, it's a headline, not the cover. DeSantis must show leadership on issues like Ukraine to win the White House. Now, Mr. Speaker, do you think that foreign policy principles matter a lot to voters in the end when they're choosing a president?
I think it matters a lot because I think voters have an instinct that the commander-in-chief is central to our being safe. So historically, you can go all the way back to John F. Kennedy, who as a young man had to prove to voters that you could trust him with being president. And I think it's a big deal. But there's a very fundamental argument underway, and it's really two parts. One part is, having lost a 20-year war in Afghanistan, how much do we want to run around the planet not exactly knowing what we're doing and not getting anything done, but losing lives and spending money? And the other part is, as long as Joe Biden is president, why would you trust anything? They're not protecting the American border. I would argue that the southern border with Mexico is far more important to the United States than Ukraine. I have no faith in Biden, whose family has been corrupted by China, when it comes to our biggest competitor, which is China. And now you come to Ukraine. You have a Defense Department which lost $82 billion in equipment to the Taliban. A Defense Department which is now more worried about being woke than it is about being effective. And I think that really undermines the willingness of many Republicans to give them a blank check. I think Speaker McCarthy's line is right. They shouldn't get a blank check. I personally believe defeating Putin matters. But I also think the current administration has no strategy. They have no ability to defeat Putin. And the free societies don't fight long wars well. People get tired of it. They don't understand where it's going. And I think you're seeing a real erosion, largely because Joe Biden is so incompetent.
He doesn't talk about it a lot either, in terms of from Biden's perspective of why he thinks it's in America's national interest. In fact, if you look at the Pew poll, this is call for number 4, American support for Ukraine is only 51% of Americans believe the U.S. is giving the right amount or not enough to support Ukraine. Let's look at call for number 3. This is a chart showing that the United States, far and away, is the largest contributor to helping Ukraine in terms of military, financial, and humanitarian aid. So that is certainly on the minds of voters, and it might even be on the minds of the candidates.
Then that's where President Trump was making a real difference, because he had browbeaten NATO into actually increasing their investment by $400 billion when people thought it wasn't possible. And I suspect had he been president, we would have intervened very fast, very decisively, and we would have demanded that the Germans and others do their fair share. It's ridiculous to say that the United States ought to, we're creating a welfare state in Ukraine because Biden's people can't help themselves. It's one thing to say, I'm going to send you tanks, which they didn't do for a long time. It's another thing to say, by the way, here are some checks to take care of you. We want you to feel good about yourself while you're being bombed. This administration is stunningly incompetent, and that has real-world consequences.
So many of these potential Republican candidates and some declared candidates on the Republican side have been going to Iowa for that early contest. But Vice President Kamala Harris, she is going to be going there tomorrow. She's going to focus on reproductive rights. That will be the issue that she's focused on. But what does that say to you? The Democrats have kind of written Iowa off in terms of a first state. They're not going to do that, what we have done traditionally there. But she's going to make a move to try to shore up some support for Democrats in Iowa?
Well, my first question is, how many times will she laugh? My second question is, maybe each Republican congressman in Iowa should invite her to come and have a town hall meeting in their district. I think the more people in Iowa get to meet Kamala Harris, the less likely they are to vote for her. So I think it's good for us. But, you know, the Democrats have this terrible bind. I mean, if Biden does end up running for re-election, and if he does get renominated, is he really going to have her as the vice presidential nominee? I think that if you go out and look at the country at large, she has a remarkably small base of support. And when the more people see of it, I think the smaller her support gets.
Do you think that's why he's waiting to announce?
I have no idea. Well, and I think they want to do a Rose Garden strategy. They're replacing the basement in Delaware with the Rose Garden in the White House. And I think they would like him to remain president as long as possible and not be a candidate, which is not irrational.
I got it.
He's done a very good job, and you know this. You know this from your own White House experience. Presidents have huge reach inside their own party, and they can bring a lot of both advantages and disadvantages to their friends and their opponents.
Yeah, and he will be in Nevada today giving a speech about pharmaceutical drug costs. And Mr. Speaker, always good to see you. Thank you.